This is a video on the awakening of scientific thinking, or maybe we can put here the status of scientific thinking. But just to make a quick side note, what is scientific thinking? And you could also call it unbiased thinking. And as you all know, I have this model, transcendent, which is outside of our brain. These are the three brains we have. There is the reptile brain, there is the limbic system, and there's the intellect. And as you know, the limbic system is the boss and the manager. And I draw it like a hammer, you know. And then the reptile brain is like love and violence, something like that. And then the intellect is this, you know, the awakening, you know, a sun awakening, going into the transcendental. And so scientific thinking is if you succeed in actually sending your boss and also the reptile brain home. And there is a nice quote from Einstein. You know, Einstein said, whenever he was thinking about his relative theory, relativity of relativity theory, he lost completely. So he lost completely that sphere, you know, which is, as I sometimes describe it, reptile is animalistic, yeah, and the limbic system is the ego. You know, that's the egoistic, I want this and I want it to be, and that is my belief, and so on. Whereas when Einstein was thinking about his theory of relativity, that is a kind of a neutral thinking, so no bias. And as a kind of what I like to say here, it is what it is. That's the kind of that's the slogan. It is what it is. And it doesn't matter if my ego says, I want it different. If my heart and my anger and my hatred says, I don't want this. No? So it is what it is. And so, now I lost 3 minutes with that. So, the awakening. And here I'd like to, as often, draw a graph. You know, this is kind of the 100+ years. Like somebody is born, and then the first, so this is the like the level of scientific thinking. And now I'd like to say that in my experience, it is 80%, maybe more, is male, you know, male, and there is maybe there's maybe a 20% female. Yeah, and I don't want this to be like this. I'd like to have it 50-50, but I think what we see, and here this is under discussion, is this 90-10 or is it 50-50? But I think it tends more into male. So that is why I use as an example the male. He comes to the world and he has no scientific thinking. He wants something to eat, he wants it warm, he wants this. It doesn't matter if outside it's cold. But then so the first year, he is zero scientific thinking. And then he starts to see, oh, there's a wall, oh, this is cold, this is hot, this is mom, this is warm, and so he develops like a scientific view, but his model is still wrong. So he sees a window, he can't go through that window. So he kind of develops a model in his brain, and every once in a while he kind of tries to introduce scientific thinking, but usually it is pretty damn like animalistic, you know, and egoistic. I want this and this has to be like that. My brother can't have this, and so on. So this is kind of when you're young, and then you go to school and you learn a little bit. So maybe I put 15 years here. For some it may be 12 years, for some it may never happen, which is very funny, but it really never happens. So at a certain stage, then they have like a step. So the scientific thinking goes in steps. So you learn, and then you reach a certain level. And this certain level is that in some things, for example, if you learn engineer, then in that matter, it's fully intellectual, neutral, unbiased, technical thinking. It is like it is, like the science. This is the scientific part of it. And in other parts of your life, and here we, usually the young engineer meets a woman, and then his level of scientific thinking will drop dramatically. It will go down because she doesn't want that I'm in love and all that. So you have all these animalistic and egoistic things going on. So actually, maybe while still in his office, he will be kind of a scientific thinker. His brain, and the thing is, we cannot say in engineering, I'm scientific and I have zero impact with my animalistic and egoistic terms. It will always be a combination. For example, if somebody says, I'm pro-environmental, then his thoughts, while he's an engineer, will be drawn towards ecological things. And if somebody is, an economist and he wants to become rich and so on, then it would go maybe in a slightly different area, but different direction. So non towards scientific thinking, unbiased thinking, but into egoistic thinking. But what you can say is then in the phase where you actually meet a non-scientific thinker, a biased thinker, then it will pull in a partnership down your level of scientific thinking. And then maybe you establish a family, or you are on your own, or whatever. Then you are able, and maybe you are a researcher and this is very important to you, then maybe your level of scientific thinking goes up. And now the thing is, if like people like Jordan Peterson, they are pretty much at this 100% level, and that was fantastic to watch some videos where he described his awakening, of intellectual awakening, where he had to throw away like 95% of his beliefs, of the things he said and so on, because they were not precise, and they were not they did not they did not have a chance to stay in this neutral, unbiased, scientifically challengeable part. And so he continued with the 5% and then added quickly up, which is great, and added quickly up, so that now most of the things Peterson thinks and talks about are kind of at this almost 100% level. And this is a fantastic level if you want that to be. And that is the ego that says what you want. So what can we say here? It goes in steps. And if we are, I would say, for the science and for the truth, if we are lucky, then the steps go up. But there are definitely people that would always stay around here. So, and that leads to the question, how many? So how many are we? I usually reply with a graph, but because it kind of is multidimensional, because it is towards others, with others in certain areas and so on. But in order to be brief here, how many do have a scientific thinking approach? I would try to use as a rule, hijack a rule that I know from internet forum, and where it is the 1990 rule, where you have one that brings the ideas, 9 that say plus or minus to the ideas, you know, so they critic or they are in favor of the ideas, but they actually comment, they are fully, you know, working with this idea. So you have these ones being kind of the innovators, he brings the ideas, these ones follow, and then you will have 90 that actually just read, you know, and maybe there's a dark number of like 900 that don't even follow any type of forums. And now I want to hijack that in order to say how many are we. And here I think it is that you have one scientific thinker. Scientific thinker, and then you have 99 partial. Maybe here we call it full scientific thinkers, 1. Then you have 99 partial, that is for some people, together with some in some areas, they think kind of neutral, unbiased. So you have partial scientific thinkers, and then you have 9,900 that are no scientific thinkers, so that usually, you know, go play in this area. And that means if you now calculate that in percentage numbers, because here it's percentage, you know, it's 100, here it's not percentage, so you would have 0, 1, and then here you would have about 1%, and then here you would have the remaining almost 99% of people. So this is kind of at the moment my view on this approach of scientific thinking and unbiased scientific thinking, and I'm most happy to receive any kind of comments on this very very simplistic view, because this is one of the things I try to do, to show things as simple as possible, because I think this can be understood and can be, you know, somebody that sees this can say, okay, I buy into this and I can explain it. So if you have any flaws, that you see any flaws in this model and in this video, please let me know. Thank you very much and see you next time. Bye bye.